Hi, I'm Tina Sprinkle from Pilates1901, and this is my friend Barb Stuber. She's one of our students. And I wanted to talk to Barb today because she has written a brand new book called Crossing the Tracks. I didn't even know this until I came back to work one day and saw a promo for a book signing that she's having. So I was really excited. I called her up and said, oh my God, I didn't even know you wrote books. So is this your first book?
Well, it's my first book to have published. I have written another novel that is still in the construction phase, I guess you could say, and some articles and poems and different things. But this is the first big deal.
So how long have you been writing fiction?
Altogether?
Yeah.
About 10 years.
Did you have a different career before this? Or?
Yes. Several incarnations actually, but the most recent, and I'm still doing it, is I am a docent at the Nelson Atkins Museum. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the artworks and the sculptures and the scenes there have morphed into my book without my even realizing it. And I put on my website some of the images of the artworks at the Nelson that inspired this book. It's fun to dig back and realize something influenced you, even if you didn't realize it at the time.
That you just found it was part of you.
Right. It's sort of ingrained in you. Right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Crossing the Tracks. I mean, what's the subject matter? How'd you come up with it?
Well, this is maybe, I don't mean for it to sound a bit morbid, but two influences in particular, rare occurrences, I would say. One of them was my own mother, who is now deceased, told me one time that she as a little girl had played under her mother's coffin in the parlor of their home down on the Texas border. And it had made her dad mad that she was playing there. And you can only imagine what kind of a supercharged moment that was in her history. And that I'm under Mama's coffin became the first line of this novel. And the second part was a great aunt of mine who got up one morning and sat down at her secretary desk many decades ago, made a cup of tea, washed her teeth, and wrote her own obituary, saying that she died that afternoon unexpectedly. And she did.
And she did?
She did.
Remind me never to write my own
I know,
obituary.
so don't ever do that. I mean, it's an omen. Anyway, and that gave me the setting, this rural farmhouse. The book takes place in 1926. Doing the drama, the universes that exist inside people and their lives that are quiet and remote. And so the two things work together. And I guess those deaths created a lot of life in me because it grew characters, it grew all this emotion and action.
And the character is a young woman named Iris?
Iris Baldwin. Yeah. She's 15. She turned 16 during the story. Yes.
So is it like a coming of age book? Would it be good for all ages, girls, or was it an adult book? Or
good question. Yeah. It is geared for ages 12 to 112. Okay. So yes, the character is a young girl, but there are characters of all generations in there, and I definitely think it has an appeal. It could have an appeal to an adult and a young adult audience, both.
So obviously, is this a book club kind of book? I mean, there's a lot of discussion around the characters and the story?
I would think so, yes. And on my website, I am working on a list of a dozen questions that would generate conversation for a book club. That was something that was very an exploration for me to think of questions, not only to think them up, but to try to answer them myself about the book. So yes, thanks for asking. I think it is a book club selection.
We might have to start our own book club, so open.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, well, whatever.
Well, getting to about the book, too, I want to talk about your book signing, but just as somebody who's always liked to write and kind of, I was just so excited to hear that you were actually publishing a book, because that's a big deal to get it published. Like you said, you've written before.
Right.
But to actually have it published. So do you have any suggestions for people that might be wanting to be authors and
wanting to write?
Yeah.
Well, do that. If you want to, then do that for sure. That means sitting down at a computer or at a piece of paper and just doing it every day. I had a couple of inspirations. One of them is this great book. It's called Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. It is hilarious. It's very insightful and very useful. That and another book called Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. Both really good books if you are thinking of writing. I took some writing classes, and another thing I highly recommend is joining a writing group and a critique group where you meet every week or every month or whatever, and you get out from under the rock of thinking you cannot possibly share anything you put on paper with another human.
But that's scary.
Yeah, it is at first. You get a real thick skin eventually, but yes, it's a hard thing to do.
Well, I just want to wrap up the interview by asking you, I know you're having a book signing on next Thursday, June 17th.
Yes.
At Faultless Starch Company?
Yeah. It's down in the West Bottoms area. The building is a vintage of the same vintage as the book, so in the early 1920s, and you actually have to cross a set of old railroad tracks to get to where it is being held. There are directions on my website because it's not maybe the most common destination for people.
So if people want to, do they need to RSVP for this event?
Yes,
okay.
Please. That would ensure I have enough cupcakes and books for everybody, so I would really appreciate that.
And they can get the book that night too if they want to.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, they can.
So we'll have a link on our site right underneath this interview. Actually, there's a really great trailer too that tells a little bit about the story that will be right underneath this post on our blog post, and a connection to Barbara's website so you can sign up. So thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Appreciate
it's been wonderful.
I can't wait. Everybody come down there.
Yes, please come.
I'll be there.
Thank
With
you.
my cupcakes.